Miss Pam Bennett is going to say a word from Australia. She's one of our missionaries, Dr. David Bennett and his wife over there in Australia for many years. So she's going to come and say a few words of reading. So come right ahead, Pam. There's a word reading.
I do have a Bible, and I know there's lots of Bibles here, but I'm kind of familiar with this now. So my Bible is at a known destination, but I won't go into that. I got saved when I was 11. I think you probably all know most of you would know my testimony. I got saved at a funeral. My aunt had a baby, and the baby died, and so my mom tried to get a preacher, because none of them went to church. They tried to get a preacher to do the service and couldn't get one. And James Kirkland of the Bible Baptist Church in Ottumwa, Iowa, said that he had already told her that he couldn't do it, but for some unknown reason, which he believed it was of the Lord, he took her phone number, my aunt's phone number. We didn't have a phone. And called her back and said, "Do you have a preacher yet?" And he said no, or she said no, and so he said, "Well, I'll do it." So it was at a funeral home, and all I remember is he gave the plan of salvation, and I accepted the Lord as my Savior. I was 12, and even though I don't think I did too many bad things, I did realize I was a sinner, and so I got saved. And so then he talked to me afterwards and sent me a letter. I still have that letter, although it's in a shed that's the roof's caved in, so it's probably no more. But my sister's still looking for it. And anyway, the pastor talked to me, and lo and behold, there was a family that went to his church that lived 3 miles from where we lived, out in the boonies in Iowa, close to Missouri. So they would pick me up. Well, they had to go backwards to get me. And I remember the very first time I was still in bed, which is unusual because my mom never let us sleep in, so it must have been fairly early still. And I heard somebody at the door, and immediately I knew I was going to go to church today. So I got up and brushed my knees and my elbows, because that's kind of what we did in those days, and put a dress on. And Mom didn't want me to go, but anyway, I did. And I joined that church. I was baptized. After I realized that I needed to follow the Lord in baptism, I got baptized. And so that was the beginning of my career as a Christian. And the people that brought me, she just died last month. I wish I hadn't said that. Anyway, I've always been very close to them. And he is now in an assisted living, so I haven't seen him yet, but when I go back, I'm going to go see him. And anyway, the very first verses I ever learned was not John 3:16, actually. She bought me this little red book, and it's also with that letter, and I'm hoping that I can find it. It was a little red booklet. It wasn't a Bible. It was a little red booklet with verses in it to memorize. So all week I would have to memorize those verses, and then I would recite them to her on the way to church, which was quite a little distance. But now as I look back, I think I got in that car. I wasn't probably very clean, because we weren't real clean people. And, I mean, we were as clean as we could be, I think. My dad smoked in the house. And I would have reeked of smoke. And, of course, they didn't smoke. And what made me think of that is I remember when I left home and was around nobody that smoked. And then if I would smell people that smoked, it was just overwhelming. And I thought, that's probably what they thought. But they never once, ever said one word about it. So probably if they had, I would have never went to church again. So anyway, this is a very long time to tell you this. The very first verses I ever learned were John 1, and I know them by heart, but I'm not going to trust myself. And it doesn't hurt to read it anyway. And I heard something the other day that I'd never heard. They said if you don't know the reference to the Bible, where it's at, it doesn't matter. If you know the words, that's what's important. So, and I know if I have my Bible, I can find just about anything. But if I have a strange Bible or an iPad, I can't find it. So, anyway, but these are the first verses I ever learned. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not the light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which was born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. I learned that in 1 week. I don't know how, because I can't do it now. But I learned that. I was so eager, because I was a newborn baby, and I wanted to learn things. And I often think, sometimes I wish I was still that newborn baby, because I find it so hard sometimes to buckle down. I've got so many other distractions. Like I told Sam, I have to sit in the front, otherwise I get distracted. I'm like a child. But then I wish I was like a child when I did this, because think what I could know now. I could probably know the whole Bible, but I don't. But anyway, that's a sideline, because if I can find it, just take me a minute. I'm used to a Bible, not an iPad, although I do. Okay, here we go. Joshua. Sorry about this. 24. Okay, this is really what I wanted to say, and I don't know why. But I just thought of it on the flight coming up. Joshua 24:15. Now we remember, Joshua was taking the people into Canaan, wasn't he? And he was kind of reminding them that they had worshipped idols. And he was telling them that he didn't want them to do that anymore. And of course he couldn't control that. He could control the outer, but when they were home in their home, he couldn't control that. Just like pastors can't control us, or, a lot of people can't control what we do in our little minds here. Mine's little anyway. But Joshua 24:15, and I know you all know that. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You can't believe how many times I've seen that in my kids' home and in Christian homes. And yet, as I look at some things, I think, that's serving the Lord? I don't know sometimes. And I'm pointing the finger at me just as well. And I was thinking of how the elections, how every time I come to America, I think I'm glad I don't live here. Even though it's bad over there, it's always been bad over there. From the day I got there, I saw the socialism and the liberalism and the morality and everything. But I come over here and I'm very judgeful, because I think this is not the country I left in 1979. It just wasn't. And then I guess maybe that's why I was thinking of the elections and all these verses that I see on Christian families' walls. And I think, and as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's a very, very good portion of a verse. And then I see the families. I see the Christian families in Australia, and I see the Christian families here. And it's not always the man, Sometimes it's the woman. I think probably a lot of times it's the man, and I'm thinking, why do people have to destroy somebody else's life? Why does a man have to destroy a woman's life? Or why does a woman have to destroy a man's life in all that goes on in the home, and then declare themselves Christians? It's very confusing to me, and I've been a Christian a long time, that think what it is to the people that see it on the outside. They think, well, you guys are no better than us. And we know we're not. We're sinners. I remember my brother-in-law who, as far as I know, never accepted the Lord. He had a brain aneurysm, and then he died in a car accident. And he often would tell me, he said he quit going to church. He lived out in the boonies too, and he went to this little church, and it was closed. And he couldn't figure out why, and then later he found out, the pastor had run off with the piano player or somebody. I'm not for sure who it was. And he said he never went back to church. And I tried to explain to him. And so after I explained to him, now when he sees me, he says, I know they're just sinners saved by grace. And so he kind of got what I had to say. And I said, okay, so now why don't you go to church with me tomorrow? And of course he never did. But I'm thinking, if we as Christians aren't setting a little bit of a good example, then what hope is there for those who don't? And we've all got skeletons in the closet. We've all got problems. She told me once, and I've never forgotten it, all families have some dysfunction. And I kind of thought to myself, mine doesn't. I mean, I didn't say it in an arrogant way, but I thought, no, my family has dysfunction, believe me. So I learned a lesson from that. So, we can sit and judge each other's families all day long, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to say, as Christian families, I hope that we set an example for the Lord. Now, some news from Australia. Not much. Our church is growing. I've got 13 in my Sunday school we're now from age 5 to 12. It was 18 months to 11. And then one of the families, he moved. He didn't like it. He was a teacher at the school where we actually meet, and he just was never happy there. So he's moved to the Central Coast and is teaching in a boys' school. So we wish him the best. He came back and visited us, but we miss him. I miss his 2 little girls in my Sunday school class. But David's doing the Sunday school class. I think he's kind of on the verge. He's ready for me to come home now. The kids aren't quite as good for him, I guess. He said, you must have a way with them. Anyway, and one other thing, he found a brown snake in our backyard, which we found one, he killed it, and it was legal, by the way, to kill it, because it threatened us. Otherwise, it's not legal. And then he saw one right before I left, a huge one, and I saw its tail, and that's it. Because we were going to go out and try to get it killed, because I wanted it gone, and not just, come back gone. And but he saw a baby, so he said he's not going to let the kids out for a while. So anyway, those are just some of the excitements we have over there. I know you guys have. My mom had rattlesnakes, so I should be used to something by now. But anyway, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.